Welcome back from the break, Rams. Well, it's the best basketball time of the year, but we're not quite at March Madness yet. Instead, we're in the middle of the high school playoffs. I got a chance to speak with the Fossil Ridge and Fort Collins boys basketball teams about their postseason journeys thus far.
Outside of CSU, there's still plenty of basketball going on in Fort Collins. Of the four major high schools, Fossil Ridge and Fort Collins are the only two still left in the playoffs. But that won't be the case for long, as they are headed for a collision course on Saturday when they face each other in the Grade 8. For Fossil Ridge, their journey has been one final ride for their 10 seniors, as this experience has given them an edge over plenty of opponents.
Just having the experience and the skill and the guys that are coming back really is the main thing.
As the team has now reached the Grade 8 for the second consecutive season, they will get another run at the state title at the historic Denver Coliseum.
We get to go and play down in Denver. Not that many people in Denver have come and seen us play. It's a great feeling playing in front of bigger crowds and playing in a large stadium and knowing that, we're in the final 8, and that's a great accomplishment for the team.
With this opportunity, Fossil hopes not to waste it by putting in the maximum amount of effort, specifically during practices.
I think it's a life skill. I think it's something we all need to work on. You set a goal and you work hard to attain that goal. And if you're not working hard, you can't be disappointed.
But this game is extra special for Fossil, as they hope to avenge their 55-52 loss against Collins from earlier this season.
It was a, close game. We didn't do enough of the things that we wanted to do right, and that's honestly what brought us down.
And speaking of Fort Collins, this playoff run has been a long time coming as they finally put together the pieces to make the Grade 8 for the first time in 5 years.
It's been a great year. Our guys have worked hard. It started all last spring and throughout the off season, and then this year they've been able to get on a nice roll and finish strong to win the league title.
We're all older. Like last year was basically the same team, but we saw our potential and then just really wanted to work at it.
This success has been in large part due to their focus on the basics.
That's the biggest part, just because if you don't got the fundamentals now, you can't do any of the other stuff that comes with it. You can't make plays without the fundamentals.
And looking ahead to this weekend, the two local teams will meet in this hugely anticipated rematch at the Denver Coliseum this Saturday.
Ridge, 1, 2, 3, Ridge. Collins on 3, 1, 2, 3, Collins.
I can't wait to see that matchup on Saturday, especially as a Fossil student, and how the playoffs continue to shape up. And speaking of the high school postseason, let's walk over to the desk to break down all of the other local action in the world of Northern Colorado high school basketball. Gideon, how's it going?
It's going pretty darn well. I'm happy to be back here. I'm happy to go over all this stuff with you, and I'm really excited to give everybody a preview of what we got looking at this weekend.
Oh yeah, we got a bunch of big matchups, and so, yeah, it's awesome to have your expertise here, Gideon. And now, let's get into the most pressing matchups, at least as it relates to us here in Fort Collins and the Northern Colorado area. So, we're starting off, of course, with the Fossil Ridge Fort Collins crosstown rivalry of number 6 seeded Collins and number 3 seeded Fossil, who, as I just filled you in on, battle each other in the Elite 8. Gideon, what are you thinking about this one?
So this Fort Collins Fossil matchup is one of the ones that I'm going to be looking back on a couple of times after it's over. Oh, yeah. Because when we're looking at this game, we have a couple of variables. First of all, Matthew Bolt from Fossil. Yes. There is a decent chance that he will not be playing with a re-injury. And at that point, you're relying a lot more on Nick Randall. And while Nick Randall can go off, I do see a lot going on with Luke Wagstaff, Jace King, and Jamar Mitchell. And so, I mean, you said last time that that Jamar was guarding Randall, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's basically going to be Mitchell's job to hold Randall to 15 or 20. And if Fort Collins does that, I see them having a pretty good chance of winning this matchup.
Yeah, you talked about it, Matthew Bolt. Not only is he their second leading scorer, but he is also the one who was supposed to guard Wagstaff in their first meeting, and just didn't get that opportunity, got injured early on, and so if he's unable to play or if he's damaged or injured in that case and just isn't playing at full strength, then that's good news for Fort Collins, specifically Luke Wagstaff, who might have a chance to earn his stripes and make another strong case for Player of the Year.
Yeah, and if that happens, I see that being a really, really good time for them to make it to state.
I think that no matter who you're looking at, that this is going to be a great matchup across the board. Man, what a battle of two heavyweights. For our sports director, Brandon, as well as, of course, myself, as a Fossil student, I'm kind of hoping the SaberCats get revenge. But hey, that's just me. And of course, this bracket isn't just about the FOCO schools. Let's get to some other riveting battles across the state. Resurrection Christian battles the TCA Titans in a battle of 4A on Friday. Gideon, I know you saw Rez in person on Thursday of the first round of the postseason against Byers. What do you think?
So, Resurrection Christian had a really, really good game against the SST Byers. The thing is, Resurrection Christian has a true coach's son in Ty Yoder. I mean that in the best way. He's averaging 18 points a game. You have Cade Crutcher, who's averaging 13 points a game, shooting 40% on his threes. And both of those guys are sophomores. But then you have the big man down low, junior Jacob Barker, 6'10", 11 points a game, a couple of looks from UNC, if I've heard right. And they're facing a really top-heavy TCA team. They really only have Jordan Wagner, who's averaging 20 points a game, yes, but his second leading scorers are averaging 8 and 7.5 a game, respectively.
I don't want to count TCA, though, because while they did average lower in the regular season, there was a reason they were able to pull off the double upsets and come in as a 23 seed to the Elite Eight. As forward Mason Smith, he was only averaging 8 this season, like you mentioned, but in the playoffs, he's averaging 13.5, and then forward Noah Osterloh, he was only averaging 8 as well, but now in the playoffs, he's up to 16.5 points. And so these guys have stepped up in the biggest moments, and while I do think Rez is definitely the favorite, for good reason, I definitely think TCA is going to give them a run for their money.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you can upset a 10 seed and a 6 seed, whew, you're going to be good.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, that will be a really interesting one between two private school titans. And now, moving closer to home, just about a little bit, nearby Windsor High School is going to battle against Longmont up in the 5A bracket. What should we be keeping an eye out for this one, Gideon?
So when we're looking at Windsor and Longmont, they faced each other in the season. Each team won one of those matchups.
Close matchups as well.
Very, very close. And the thing is, this kind of depends on a couple of things. Longmont, I don't think that that Noah Atherton will be back. So when it comes to rebounding, they'll be relying on 6'10", forward Cole Gaddis, who's averaging 4.4 rebounds a game. He is their leader in that stat. And their second leading rebounder is averaging 4 a game. However, you're looking at their steals. They're a small, fast team, and their leading steals guy, Reese Pearson, he's averaging 2.2 steals a game, which I think is going to be key here against this Windsor team.
Yeah, you look at that Longmont team, they've got 3 separate players averaging over a steal and a half, which is impressive. But Windsor, they love to play fast, too. This is going to be a quick matchup, and that's going to be led by senior David Hageman, who is averaging nearly 20 points a game and averaging almost 5 rebounds and over 2 assists and has been a major part of this playoff piece. What do you think is so good about this Windsor team?
I mean, they're also a small, fast team. Nobody's averaging over a block a game except for a dude who's played 1 game this season. But you mentioned Hageman. He's also averaging 2.2 steals a game. You also have Madden Smiley, who's a freshman who's come in on 15 different games. He's averaging a steal and a half. So you have reliable guys who they have varsity experience. They have the ability to come in and give you some good, strong defense against, again, fast teams. So what I see here is going to be a really, really stiff and steep contest. Personally, I'm going to give this to Windsor. It's really hard to beat a team twice. I believe Windsor lost that last one against Longmont, if I'm remembering correctly. So I think Windsor is going to take that and rush them in the playoffs.
Yeah, that Windsor team is very good, and they're absolutely looking to this postseason. They've been rising to the occasion already, and I think that they're ready to make that huge jump that they got going on. And finally, sticking with Windsor, we had to get some women's basketball in here before we finish up. The Wizards are facing off against Meade in a rematch of a 1-point loss they took at the hands of the Mavs back on the 15th. Who takes this one and why?
Here's the thing about that 1-point loss to Meade earlier this month, is that it is kind of deceptive because they met once before that. And Windsor actually won that matchup by almost 25.
Very decisive.
And so I see this going one of two ways, but I'm going to predict Windsor is going to rush them with this. They still have that regret from that 1-point loss earlier this month. And Haley Wright averaging 13. You have Rayleigh Hess averaging 11 and 3. And then Julia Bollinger is averaging 7 rebounds a game. They have some good rebounding presence when it comes to this team.
We talked about how those Windsor boys really wanted to play fast. Those Windsor girls as well. They have, like you mentioned, Haley Wright averaging 2 steals a game. You have Rayleigh Hess. She's averaging over 2 steals a game. And guard Samantha Darnell, who is also a senior. She's averaging almost 5 steals a game, which is just absurd.
Yeah. But they'll have some really, really hard competition when we look at the Mavericks, because you got girls like, I want to say Kyra Haas, who's averaging 14, and then 4.2 steals per game. And then you have Brooklyn Charlo, who's averaging 12 a game as well. And then you also have girls like Abby Miller, who are going to be providing a good defensive presence. So I think there's a good chance that this will be another close one, but I'm still going to stick with Windsor here.
I think a very important thing to look at is that the team who won the second half in both matchups won the game. And so I think heading into halftime, it's important that we keep it close for both sides. But that second half and that third quarter specifically, I think that's going to be decide who wins the game here.
Exactly. Yeah.
And well, Rams, that's enough basketball for tonight. Let's take another break. When we return, we'll be looking ahead to tomorrow's local beats show by taking a guess at sports movie themes. Stay tuned.